In life, we are often taught that urgency is power, that to succeed, to stay ahead, we must act quickly, decide instantly, move relentlessly. But the truth is, many of our greatest mistakes happen not because we lacked intelligence, but because we lacked stillness. We rushed, we reacted. We allowed the noise around us to dictate our response instead of creating a moment to see things clearly. The best decisions, those rooted in wisdom rather than impulse, don't come from speed. They come from clarity, and clarity only arises when the mind is still. Imagine a cup filled with muddy water. Shake it and you see nothing but confusion. Everything is mixed, clouded, and unsettled. But leave that same cup untouched, let it rest without interference, and slowly the mud begins to settle, the water becomes clear. That clarity was always possible, but only in stillness. The same happens within us. When we're constantly reacting, chasing, forcing answers, our inner vision becomes clouded. But when we pause, breathe, and allow space within, we begin to see beyond our fears and assumptions. We connect to something quieter, something deeper. This stillness is not laziness. It is not hesitation. It is the active discipline of pausing. A short breath taken before you speak, a moment of silence before you choose. It is an act of power, not weakness. Because in that space, you are not being pulled by fear or pushed by expectation. You are anchored. And from that stillness, decisions arise that feel light, not because they are easy, but because they are true. In today's world, we are taught to idolize speed, fast answers, fast progress. But speed without awareness only takes you further from yourself. How many people have made quick decisions they regret for a lifetime? Not because they didn't know better, but because they never gave themselves the chance to access that knowing. We all have the answers we need, but they are buried under layers of noise. To uncover them, we must create the conditions for them to rise. Stillness is those conditions. Whether it's found in a quiet room, a walk through nature, or simply a single conscious breath, it is a doorway to clarity. And when clarity enters, confusion loses its grip. You no longer feel torn between right and wrong. You feel guided toward what feels aligned. There's a subtle yet unmistakable difference between choices that are forced and choices that emerge. The best decisions don't shout at you. They whisper when everything else goes quiet. So instead of asking how quickly you can decide, ask how clearly you can see. Instead of rushing to act, create a moment to observe. Because a calm mind doesn't mean a lack of action, it means meaningful action. The kind of action that comes from deep awareness, not shallow reaction. The kind of decision that leads you forward with peace, not pressure. And when that becomes your practice, you'll realize that clarity was never something to be found outside. It was always waiting inside, beneath the noise, beneath the urgency, in the quiet stillness of your own presence. One of the reasons decision-making feels so heavy is because we become obsessed with the outcome. We hesitate, overthink, or even freeze, not because we don't know what feels right, but because we're afraid of what might go wrong. This fear of results can trap us in a cycle of uncertainty. We start making choices not from our values, but from our fear of consequences. And when fear leads, we rarely walk the right path. The truth is, the best decisions aren't always about the outcome. They're about the integrity with which you choose. When you let go of the need to control how everything unfolds, a weight lifts. Suddenly, you're no longer a prisoner of a what if. You're not calculating every move based on how it will be received, how much it will please others, or how safe it appears. Instead, you start asking a deeper question. What decision allows me to respect myself? What choice aligns with who I want to be? Because no matter what happens after that, you can stand tall knowing you didn't betray yourself. That's the kind of inner peace no outcome can provide. It's not easy. We live in a world that trains us to measure success by results, by wins, applause, or approval. But real strength comes when you no longer need the outside to validate your inside. When you can look within, sense what feels true, and act from that place, even when the outcome is uncertain. That is where your power lies. Not in controlling the result, but in staying loyal to your principles. Think of a time when you made a decision that felt clean, even if it didn't lead to what you expected. You may not have received what you hoped for, but you probably felt free, unburdened. That discomfort lingers far longer than any temporary success. When we detach from the outcome, it doesn't mean we stop caring. It means we stop being controlled. We become rooted in our values. We choose clarity over chaos, alignment over approval. And when we live this way, something shifts. Decisions become less about perfection and more about presence. You don't need to guarantee a perfect future. You only need to make choices that feel right in your core, choices that you can live with even if things don't go as planned, because life will always be uncertain. Outcomes will never be fully under your control, but how you show up for each decision, that's entirely yours. And when your choices reflect your truth, even the most unpredictable journey becomes meaningful. You don't need to predict the future to make the right decision. You just need to honor who you are in the present. So many people today are searching for certainty outside themselves, seeking advice, watching others, asking questions, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. But the truth is, the most reliable guide you'll ever have isn't external. It's already within you. It's your awareness, your ability to observe without judgment, to listen deeply, to feel what's right before the mind begins its endless analysis. And like anything valuable, this awareness must be trained. It doesn't simply appear when you need it most. It's built slowly, with presence, with attention, and with patience. When you train awareness, you sharpen your inner compass. You begin to notice what others miss, the subtle shifts in your emotions, the quiet discomfort that follows a dishonest action, the peace that comes from doing the right thing, even when it's hard. These signals are always there, but in a distracted life, they are easy to overlook. The mind jumps from one thought to another, reacting to stimuli, pulled by opinions, fears, desires. In that chaos, awareness gets buried. And when you lose access to your awareness, you make choices blindly, hoping for the best, but disconnected from yourself. It's like walking through a forest at night with a fogged-up lantern. You may have light, but you can't see clearly. Training awareness is like cleaning that glass. The path doesn't change. It's your perception that becomes clear. And with clarity, even a difficult road feels navigable. You may not know where the road leads, but you begin to trust each step. Because you are no longer guessing, you are feeling your way forward with honesty. This training doesn't require dramatic rituals. It lives in the small, consistent practices. Sitting with your breath for a few moments each day, observing how you react when you're under pressure, noticing the tone in your voice when you speak, catching the tension in your shoulders when a situation feels wrong. These tiny acts of attention create space between you and your impulses. They slow down the rush of emotion and allow something deeper to speak, a kind of knowing that comes not from thought, but from connection. And that connection becomes your greatest strength in decision-making. Stop chasing the right answer out there and begin tuning in to what resonates in here. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. The more you act in alignment, the more confident you feel. Doubt begins to fade, not because you suddenly have all the answers, but because you trust your ability to choose wisely. It's easy to look outside for solutions, but lasting clarity comes from within. When you commit to training awareness, you're not just preparing for better decisions, you're preparing for a better life. Because every conscious breath, every mindful pause is a step toward living with greater honesty, purpose, and peace. Every choice you make, no matter how small, is shaping the person you're becoming. We often look at decisions as isolated moments. Pick this job, say yes to that invitation, turn left instead of right. But the reality is, each decision is like a thread woven into the fabric of your life. Over time, those threads create the pattern of who you are. That's why making the best decision isn't just about finding the perfect answer. It's about choosing in a way that reflects the kind of person you want to grow into. When you understand that, you stop waiting for some grand moment to define you. You realize that who you are is being formed in the quiet, ordinary moments when no one's watching. In the choice to speak kindly instead of criticize. In the decision to stay disciplined when comfort tempts you. In the moment you tell the truth even when it costs you. These moments add up. They define your direction. And if you can stay mindful of that, then even small choices take on meaning. Because they're not just about what's convenient now, they're about the future you're building with every step. It's also important to see that becoming the person you want to be doesn't happen all at once. It's not a switch you flip. It's a process that unfolds through your actions. So when you face a decision, ask yourself, is this choice moving me closer to who I want to become or pulling me further away? That simple question can illuminate a lot. It brings your attention away from temporary emotions and back to long-term alignment. It helps you shift from short-term gain to lasting integrity. This doesn't mean that every choice will be perfect. Growth doesn't require perfection. It requires intention. You will make mistakes. You will learn. But when you decide with awareness, even your failures become valuable. They teach you, refine you, strengthen your sense of direction. You start to see that the goal isn't to always get it right, but to always choose with honesty. That's how you build trust in yourself. That's how you move forward, even when the outcome is uncertain. And the more you live this way, the more your decisions begin to reflect something deeper. Your values, your resilience, your truth. You stop chasing what looks impressive from the outside and start aligning with what feels right on the inside. That's a shift that changes everything. It transforms decision-making from a burden into an act of creation. With each choice, you are creating your future, Hamiticha. Not just the circumstances around you, but the character within you. So when the moment comes to choose, don't just ask what you want right now. Ask who you're becoming, because every decision is a step. And every step, when taken with awareness, brings you closer to the life that truly belongs to you.